Hello everybody and welcome to my Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda the Minish Cap for the Game Boy Advance. I've played this game a number of times since it came out. I think I played it probably the year it came out because I was very into the Game Boy Advance. And I still am. In part because of nostalgia and in part because I liked when games were small. And I'm glad that there is an emergent market of like indie games and stuff that are small again. Because like I don't need my video games to take me completely out of my life. I need them to give me something to do for like an afternoon that will put me back into my life. You know, like to me, art should be utility in some way, both creating it and consuming it. There should be some kind of like, you know, it should make everything else easier, even if it's just making or consuming more art. Like there should be, I don't want to come away from consuming or creating something with the feeling that my life will be even harder afterwards, which can happen very easily, especially with video games. And with live streaming, actually, because of the damage you can do to your body physically, like the discomfort that is created from staying in one position for too long, from getting hyper focused and not really realizing that you're tensing your muscles, you know, receiving repetitive stress injuries. Like there's lots of ways that video games, you know, things that seem innocent in the moment have long-term damaging consequences on a physical level if you overindulge with them. It needs to be that you get enough out of it that it can release you, you know. And I feel in many aspects of my life I'm always overtasking myself to accomplish too much at once because I feel like I have to. Like, I feel like what's required of me to participate in society is that I rise to this, like, certain, like, level, you know, of expectation that everybody else is holding themselves to. Because otherwise, people look at me like, well, what makes you different? Like, what makes you not have to do all the things that I have to do, that I'm struggling to keep up with, you know? And I hope that what my presence does for people is makes them relax on themselves, like to just kind of lower their standards, you know, towards themselves and realize like it's not really my fault that I feel this way. You know, keep reminding people like it's capitalism, it's patriarchy, it's like, I know it ends up sounding generic or white noise when you hear those words over and over again, but like that's just what it is though. It's like it's so overarching. It's not like it's something you can overturn by, you know, wanting to really badly. Like you have to live your life knowing that this thing is, you know, is hanging over you and that you're just going to live anyways, you know, like you're not getting rid of it. There's not like a turn off the patriarchy switch, you know. So like to me, I feel like if I'm just trying to live up to my own expectations, like my actual, apart from like, you know, stripping away all of the bullshit that I know has been put on me by advertising, by, you know, everything that I have to see in my day-to-day, by, you know, the influences, the people who brought me into this world, the culture surrounding me, all the things that created this extra, you know, layer of expectation that I have on myself. When I peel all of that away and I examine my actual expectations of myself, they're not very high, you know, like there's not much I feel like I can do that is, that like, I don't know, that makes me feel like I'm doing a better thing than nothing, if that makes sense. Like, I have a hard time figuring out how do I direct my energy in a way that benefits everyone, you know, and like that's, I think what I think is valuable. That's where my values lie, is in the idea that whatever I'm doing with my energy is overall benefiting not just me, because I don't see my own life or existence as disproportionately valuable just because it's mine, you know, like it that is, if anything, the opposite of what my understanding of morality is, you know, like putting yourself, not to say that you shouldn't put yourself first in the sense that like you should make sure that you feel comfortable with yourself, because that helps you to maintain the energy to help other people. But that should be the goal, right? Like the reason that you're working on yourself is so you can help other people. It's not just to conquer the world, you know, be the ultimate person or whatever. Like it's to have the power that you could make someone else more powerful, you know? And so with that as a guiding principle, it becomes a question of like, okay, well, who am I trying to empower and toward what end, you know? And again, it's not like I can just dissolve capitalism or dissolve the patriarchy or whatever. Like I can't just, I cannot work to the ends of, you know, making it so people don't exist in the systems that they exist inside of. I can only work to the ends of that we all are able to live comfortably within the system and have an effect on it to maybe change it to be more comfortable to us, you know, like just at the very least making the moves we can within reason. But also what is reasonable is incredibly subjective, you know, and my idea of reasonable goes far beyond many people's idea of reasonable. So you know, it's difficult for me to navigate where do I direct my energy effectively, and I'm not very trusting. So there's not a lot of people who can convince me that I need to put my energy into something, and even if they try, they have to try really hard, you know, like I'm not, even if I trust you, it doesn't mean I trust your ideas or everything that comes out of your mouth, you know, like I will interrogate you. So the only kinds of people who really can effectively like direct my energy are people who are willing to argue, you know, and who are capable of proving me wrong, you know, that like, oh, you should do this thing, and if you don't think so, here's why you're wrong about that, you know. And I do have some people like that in my life, which is helpful. But I don't think that there's anybody who has like so much directive towards me, you know, or like so much of an idea of what they think I should be doing that it's like an answer for me, you know. And I don't think it would be absurd to think that that could be possible, because there are lots of roles in this world that are kind of like secondary, right? Like I think of like a manga assistant, where it's just like a person who basically your job is just to make another person's job easier, you know, but like your job exists because that person created that job by doing their own job and, you know, and wanting it to be easier for themselves, and realizing that they could trade, you know, they're making enough money doing the thing that they could trade money for making it easier on themselves. I feel like that is a type of a role that I would fulfill very well, but I don't know how to define or like sell myself in that role, right? Like I think I'm a great editor, and I don't mean a video editor, like a writing editor, you know, or a script supervisor. I'm a good proofreader. I'm good at helping people to figure out what they're trying to say. I'm very good at helping people through the creative process, helping people to figure out what their own ideas are. I'm good at analysis. I'm good at just writing. You know, I'm good at writing, like, for people. I'm good at, like, interpreting what someone is saying and turning that into words, you know, on a paper. So, and I know there are routes towards, like, jobs that fit descriptions like those, but I don't work well in an industrial setting because I don't like the industry at all. You know, like, I have real opposition to the way that everything is run inside of the mainstream industry. And so I'm always inclined to support independent creators, but I don't really know where I fit into an independent creative matrix because as it stands, I've just been running my own career. You know, I've never been a part of someone else's machine, and when I have been, I haven't really found a place in it. You know, I tried to work for Riley and Mint for a time, and it was hard for me to figure out, like, how I could contribute enough meaningfully to what they were doing. You know, Mint kind of had a solid grasp of what she was doing already, you know, like, it was more of having a desire to do it that I was, you know, trying to help her with. And that's a difficult thing for me to navigate because I don't know why I'm doing it, you know, like, I'm trying to help other people to want to do their own thing more. But that, you have to have something that you're going for. And, like, Victor, my brother, put out this video responding to my vlog that was responding to his vlog, mine being called Vlog Siblings. His original was Poor Boy Eats, and his new video is like what I actually do or something like that, explaining what I do. And in this video, all right, I've got a fucking sword. Yes, 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 yes. This is what I wanted. This is what I come to video games for. This is all video games mean to me. This is 1000% of my engagement with a video game. Okay. I wish Zelda wasn't turned to stone. Her eyes are filled with fire. I know exactly what it feels like to be turned to stone, but your eyes are still filled with fire. That was me all fucking day, actually. Start my search at Picori Shrine. Okay. So, in this video that Vic did, there's a part where he explains that life is like a roguelite type video game. In the sense that typically there is something that you are trying to do kind of over and over again. That is your North Star guiding like principle of or directive, we'll say. Your guiding directive. So in his case, his guiding directive is that he wants to work on feature films. And in order to get to that position, there's like there's multiple paths he can take, but ones that, and some of them are more difficult, some are easier, but they come with different benefits and drawbacks, and he breaks down all the different ways it works. But essentially, you're going through the same process again and again. You just kind of get better at doing it, much like with a roguelite. And I've never been able to get into any of those games. In fact, I haven't been able to get into very many video games ever, really, at all, because of the fact that I've never enjoyed engaging with one piece of media so much that I just wanted to keep engaging with that piece of media over and over and over again. Possibly with the exception of a few of the Zelda games, but even then, when I say over and over again, I mean like 3 times in 15 years, which is nothing compared to what, real diehard fans of a game are doing. I'm sure there's people who speedrun this game in 15 minutes or something, but like, I will never be at that level with this game, even if this was like literally my favorite game. I don't think it is. But it's one of them. It's a game I am not sick of after almost 20 years, however long it's been since this came out. It's probably been 20 years. You know, I'm not sick of this game in 20 years means it's probably one of my favorite games, but that doesn't mean that I'm ever going to get so engaged with it that, like, I beat it over and over again and I know every nook and cranny. Like, right now, I feel as though I'm playing it for the second time ever. Like, I don't know where anything is off the top of my head. I'm just kind of winging it, you know, wandering around, having a good time, enjoying the game. Which, in some sense, preserving that ability is part of why I wouldn't want to play the game. Like, you know, like, I wouldn't want to make myself sick of something I like. I like that I can come back to it years later and still have a good time. You know, or find out if I'm going to have a good time at the very least. Not have it be a foregone conclusion for me. That's also why I don't try to consume everything that I know I'm going to like. Like, I've always tried to keep some things in the back pocket, especially if it's stuff that, like, I can tell it's good, but I don't totally understand it yet. I don't want to, like, exhaust that, you know? It's like, I'll save it for when I'm older, or when I've got more perspective, or when I feel like I need something with that tone, you know? I don't try to consume stuff just because it's good or just because I think I will like it. I try to consume it because it's what I need right now, you know? And it's really tough because my job is essentially to... Actually, I don't really know what my job is at this point. I can't describe it to you. I think it's sharing my perspective, but I've like, in order to share my perspective, I have perspective on so many different things, and trying to turn it all into one cohesive product, I don't really know how to do that in a way that is like, that's gonna both be satisfying for me as a creative and for the audience as a product. Like, this that I'm doing right now, this is satisfying for me as a creative right now. Like, I've been thinking about what all these things I'm saying right now. These are thoughts that have been in my head all day. And I couldn't figure out what video format I could get them out in. Like, I was just sitting around thinking about these things, knowing I wanted to talk about them in a video, but is this a vlog? Is this a stream? Where am I going to film this? You know, who is it for outside of myself? You know, like, is there an audience for this? Which I know there is, because I know people who like this game. I know people who'll be excited just at the fact that I'm playing a game I like at all and talking about it. And I know people who will be engaged specifically with the stuff I'm talking about. But then it becomes a question of, will most of the people who would care what I'm saying in this video even see it if it's, like, in their perception, a Let's Play that's also about other things, you know? Or will people who wanted a more straightforward Let's Play that talks more about the game be disappointed that that's not what this is? And how do I communicate what this is before you consume it? And how do I market it in a way that it's going to strike the people who would want that? You know, those are all, like, mysterious factors for me that makes it really hard to do the job, because I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions. It's straight up just don't, you know. I know that playing this game is helping me to say these words that I wanted to say. And that I will, at the end of the day, have this video that hopefully sounds good, because, you know, I last night recorded something that my audio just was messed up for reasons beyond my comprehension. I don't know what was wrong with it. The audio is just bad for some ungodly reason. I threw the audio file into an AI transcriber. The one thing that AI can actually be, like, kind of justifiably used for, I think. You let me know. Would it have been better for me to have hand transcribed it myself, or is it fine to just use an AI for that? I mean, they call it an AI. I don't even know if it really is that by definition. whatever. I will read it on a live stream at some point, probably, the thing that I recorded. But these are all mysteries to me right now. Like, is this a viable product? I have no clue. I don't know what I would do. I would say probably the truth is that it's probably a bunch of viable products. Like, if it was cut up and marketed in certain ways, if it got into the right hands, it would probably be more than one viable product. What am I trying to do for this guy right now? Oh, okay. I just had to walk away. Oh, okay. He's following me. Yeah, let me fucking wear you on my head. There we go. See, this is... I want to be someone's Minish Cap, you know? Just stick myself on their head and help them shrink and grow at will. You know, Link... I want to sit on top of the head of a pretty boy with a sword and shrink and grow him, if you catch my drift. Which is kind of the lifestyle I lead with Bird. A very Link-esque man, if I might say so. But he has a regular job that I really can't, like, help with in any meaning. You know, I don't work there. So, like, I've been able to give him advice on, like, you know, interpersonal conflict and stuff at work to a degree. But, like, you know, there's only so much that I can really contribute to that aspect of his life. You know, I can keep him fed. I can keep him, you know, in a good place, around good people. But there's nothing I could really do to, like, you know, attach myself to him in a career sense. And when I say attach myself to someone in a career sense, I'm thinking of a case like, if you know Dochi, and if you follow me, you should probably end up knowing Dochi, because I'm a huge Dochi stan, and I don't shut up about her, and it's just going to be harder and harder to understand what I'm saying if you don't keep up with the program. Dochi has a DJ Miss Milan, who, you know, is a huge part of her shows, or has been at least for the last few years, where, you know, Miss Milan is always the DJ. She always does the backup vocals. She always does the hype manning, the introductions and stuff. She interviewed Dochi on that First We Feast video, where she very infamously said that she, you know, considers straight men to be a red flag, rightly so. But that was Miss Milan sitting across from her. And so, you know, Miss Milan has her own stuff. You know, it's not like she only exists as Dochi's DJ. But she clearly saw, okay, rather than do my thing as my main focus, I can help this person whose thing is amazing to do their thing at the best of their capacity, because I can take care of all this shit they won't have to worry about, you know? And, like, I think there's not a lot of artists who are even capable of, like, developing that kind of trust with someone that they are willing to do that. Like, I think about JPEG Mafia, who is clearly not someone that is really trustworthy, nor that trusts anybody. But he basically said that he learned how to do every single aspect of what he does by himself, because he could not trust anybody to realize what he wanted from them, you know? And I understand what he's done is incredibly specific and particular. So, like, you know, in terms of his style in all aspects. So I get why that would be hard to communicate to other people unless they, like, you know, are deeply embedded in working with you. And if you're a challenging person to work with, people don't want to do that, you know? Like, it's hard for me to encourage that, because I had it before and I fucked it up, you know? Like, I've had times where people were working very closely with me, and like I ruined those working relationships, you know? So I'm not trying to invite people in without them really understanding what I'm like and what I'm about, you know? And I don't think that I was capable of communicating that before, like, effectively. I took way too much for granted. Like, I just thought that other people saw the world a lot more similarly to me than they did, until I, you know, met a lot of people and spent a lot of time traveling and kind of understood, oh, this is where everyone else is coming from, you know? And I'm over here doing something else. So I'm kind of trying to find the people who want to be over here, you know, like people who are closer to already being over here and look at where I am and go, actually, you're standing exactly where I want to be, you know, not people who are looking at where I was and thinking, I want you back there, or I want to be who you were back then, or whatever. No. People who are looking at me right now and saying, like, I want to be doing what you're doing. Let's do it together, you know? And, like, I think that the more of us that, you know, that the more of those kinds of people I find, the more we are all, like, empowered together to realize something bigger, you know? Where when I look at, again, Doechii, or at Kendrick Lamar, who are like my two favorite artists, and both of them have similarly done like a lot of shows recently where the point is basically to just put as many people on stage as humanly possible, but in particular, to both of them, black people. In Doechii's case, black women especially. But like, you know, the point of their shows is basically like, look how many talented, you know, people like me exist, and look what we can do when all of us join together and work in harmony towards something. And the result is incredibly impressive. You look at it and you go, fuck, that looks awesome, that looks fun, that looks like it would be worth dedicating yourself to learning how to do, because it's so satisfying just to do, you know, just being up on stage doing those things looks satisfying. Having those, you know, having an aesthetically cool outfit and doing an aesthetically cool dance and saying a bunch of aesthetically cool words in an aesthetically cool way. It's just an overall aesthetically cool existence. And you know, I dream of that, but it takes a lot of work. It's not something that comes as a result of like you know, just like wanting it. You have to understand how to make all of those things happen. And in the effort of learning how to make things happen, you have to have a clear vision of what are you trying to make happen, you know? In Doechii's case, it was like, I want to see, you know, I want to see a bunch of girls like me, dressed like me, doing what I'm doing happily, you know? And I totally understand the desire for that. In my case, I'm not looking for people who necessarily look like me or want to do what I do, as much as people who want to spend time with me and create a sort of world together that is like inner to the world that exists outside of us, if you know what I mean. Like, we live in reality, we have to acknowledge that, but we don't have to interpret reality the same way that other people do in order to live there, you know? And so if we have our own interpretation of our world that is satisfying to us, you know, that we're all sort of participating in together, we will inevitably change the world outside to be more like that world. Because when people see how happy we are living our lives the way we want to live our lives, they'll start wondering if that might be a better way to live than whatever they're doing. And so I want to be copied. Ultimately, what I want is for people to copy what I'm doing and to try to do more like me. But what I do is not cool within the system we live in. You know, like, I'm not I'm not trying to get people to be more like me while being something that most people want to be right now. You know, I'm trying to create a kind of a new cool. And my cool is basically being completely chill to do absolutely nothing. And not have any sort of personal regrets about it. Not feel like you're wasting time or, you know, underserving the world in some fashion. Like, you can literally just, like, stare into space and be fine with that. Because sometimes a bitch just gotta stare into space, you know? And I don't want to feel like if I'm, you know, having a mental health moment, that therefore I'm like losing money because time is money or whatever bullshit people, you know. It's all sales. It's all some kind of marketing gimmick to get you to work harder for somebody else. And like, I don't know, that's just not the part of life where happiness is found, I think. I'm not sure if I was meant to come back here. I feel like probably this language nut I want is not actually in this Minish village. And I came back here for no reason because I'm rambling now. I got lost in my point. I don't want to have to edit this, but I feel like I'm done with what I wanted to say. So, this is going to be the end of this episode of me playing the Minish Cap. Will there be another episode? I have no idea. I really don't know. I just needed to be able to get these words out, alright? Like, the game is a vehicle. Maybe the game will be a vehicle again. I don't know. If people really wanted it, but people would have to really want it to be what it is, you know? And, okay, I think I found my sense of direction again and where I'm trying to take my point here, which is that I am lacking a North Star, as Victor described in that video, where there should be a final boss you're trying to fight towards. And, like, I see all these different stars. Like, I could see, you know, I'm looking up at the sky, I see all these stars. I'm fascinated by the stars. Sometimes I want to get up close. But then, usually at some point, I realize, like, I don't want to play this game. You know, like, I don't want to fly. I don't, it's going to take a lot of fuel to get to that star, and I don't have the fuel, you know? Like, I don't have the means to even acquire the fuel. I'm not making it to that star, you know? And I realize that all the time. And so I'm always like kind of gear shifting between different things that seem reasonable in the moment, but it's hard to know until you're actually like heading there, you know, until you're actually going in that direction, whether you are going in the right direction or not, you know, just like me playing this video game right now. Like, you have to be like, yeah, I really want to play this game and really want to fight this boss, you know, if you're going to commit yourself to going all the way with it. And, like, for me, the only game that I feel that I'm playing is life itself, you know, like, and to me, all of my art is just a lifestyle. It's just like, this is how I make it through the day, is I find a way to express myself and collect money through that self-expression. But those two things can be so at odds with one another, you know, like, I don't think I'm gonna make any money off of this video unless somebody's like, this is my favorite video you've done all year, here's $20, you know, like, it could happen. But that's the only way I see myself, like, actually making a profit off of having done this. And it's a total mystery to me if that will happen until it happens. And, you know, obviously I'm saying this because I'm hoping I can encourage it. I'm hoping I'm going to materialize it just by insisting on it so much. But, like, ultimately I have no idea. I could just be playing this for the sake of, you know, saying what's on my mind, moving on, and I'll forget that I even did it, like by the time the next day rolls around. Like that's just as likely as it being something that someone cares about enough to be like, you have to do another one. I didn't find what I thought I was looking for here. Where do I need to go to get this goddamn babblefish? Probably down below Lon Ranch, but next to the house, maybe? Yeah, so I really need my audience to help me out with this North Star thing, because so again, to return to Bird, right, who is the number one person I'm dedicated towards helping in his life. His North Star is that he wants to visit all of the national parks, and generally to spend as much time as he can camping out without not having a house and or any kind of job or stability. He doesn't have something that he wants to do badly enough that he feels like he's going to dedicate himself to that thing in specific, as much as just he likes working and feeling useful and feeling like he is getting something accomplished, and that he's around good people and he's in a good environment, So for him, he's kind of locked in to the long haul of okay, I've got a job I like, I've got goals in mind, I'm just kind of plugging away at trying to do the best I can at being the person I am. And I'm like, everything I do, I feel like I do well. I just don't know what the fuck to do. I'm not insecure about my level of skill at any of the things that I want to do anymore. I'm past that stage of the creative career. I don't have a new top I'm chasing as an artist. I feel like I can do it, I feel like I can do the things I want to do. I just don't want any one particular thing other than, again, the freedom to express myself creatively, to live. And there's a lot I would change about my lifestyle, mostly if I had more money. If I had more money, I would travel more. I would go out more. I would see more people. I would be more inspired. And I think through that, I would make better work. And also, just if I had more opportunities to work with people, I would, at the very least, make more distinct products. But that doesn't typically lead to things my audience wants, in the past, when I've tried to lean in on collaboration, people didn't like the collaborations. So it's tough to, I've never made nearly as much money off of collaborating as actually, let me rephrase. I've almost never made any money off of collaborating whatsoever, whereas I've always been able to make money doing stuff by myself, to the point that there have been many times where I would have preferred to have someone else with me while live streaming, but I literally just make less money. I will consistently make less money if anyone else is talking to me while I'm streaming than I will if I'm by myself. And so this also leads me into another aspect of what makes this all difficult for me, is that I am really trying to use my career, the internet, I should just say I'm trying to use the internet both for the sake of socializing and for a career, but kind of through the same means, and those two things are really at odds with each other, because the stuff I get paid to do and the stuff that I enjoy doing because of how it, the social aspect, they're just not connected enough, I mostly get paid to react to videos. That's where I've been making the most of my money, is when I'm live streaming. Some people will pay me to react to certain things, and that's fine. It's kind of fun, but it doesn't, like, it takes too much time to be like the only thing I do for money, you know, because like it would have to be that I did it for 8 hours every day, and like on a social level it's not that engaging. Like, it's okay, but to me it's just a way to make money. It's okay, this was blocked off before and I should have checked that it was no longer blocked off. Don't love that. That is how the game is structured. I'm being called. You've just been through a time portal because I got up. Bird called me. I went and passed out for a few hours. Woke up, helped him get ready for work. There was a cockroach in our bed, our air mattress. So that was fun. I've got to do some cleaning and rearranging and spraying of the bedroom. But anyways, in the meantime, both before I was playing this the first time and before playing it again just now, I was watching this interview that Torre, an interviewer named Torre, was doing with this comedian named Punky Johnson, who I frankly had never heard of. But I have a very backward approach to culture in the sense that I tend to take an interest in people before I take an interest in their work. So I'm always interested to hear like a good interview, and I know with Torre, I just, because of who he is as a person, I know he's not going to interview someone who's not interesting, and he's not going to do a bad job of an interview. Those are just two things that aren't going to happen. So I'm almost guaranteed to find something interesting in an interview that he performs. So this one particularly drew me because it was called like How to Be a Lesbian. It opens in an interesting way in that Punky really doesn't like the word queer. She's like, why are we calling ourselves that? That's just not like a cool thing, you know? Like, why don't we call ourselves something cool? Which I think is a good argument. You know, I'm more okay with us gays being like fairies than queers, because at least a fairy is like a magical creature, you know. A queer just means like you're different and strange, you know. It's not really complimentary in most contexts that the word is used, you know. So I definitely understand why somebody would be like, I don't want to be identified as that. Oh, I'm in the Minish Woods now. Oh, perfect. This is the temple. That just exits you. Okay. Deepwood Shrine. So this interview had a lot of interesting stuff in it, but only some parts of it that were actually directly relevant to what I was talking about before I paused. And in particular, towards the end of the interview, Punky's talking about how she doesn't really have a crew in Hollywood. She's talking about how weird Hollywood is just in general and the importance of having a crew. And I think this really applies everywhere. I understand why, like, I understand what people mean when they say Hollywood is weird. Because I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and Dochi was the most recent one where, you know, I want to say probably on her Breakfast Club interviews is where she talked about having to find her own set in Hollywood, and, you know, the way that people are very, like, everything is driven by image more so than, like, logic. It's not about what makes the most sense to do per se. It's about like who you want to do it with, or how you want to be seen in in a day-to-day sense. So like this mechanic is so fun and adorable. Oops, I did it wrong. Good old Capcom Zelda. So anyway, I don't have to deal with the fakeness of people within the industry because I don't participate. But I also am not so skilled by myself that I can get everything done by myself. And I think people go into the industry thinking that it's going to be generally like looking for more talent and supportive, and it's like, not really though. That's not really how it is. Like, everybody who's in the industry already is trying to forward their own career, and they're hoping that you will be able to help them forward their career, and like that it will be mutually beneficial for both of you. But ultimately they're not really thinking, like, they're not trying to make sure that that's the case for you. If it ends up not benefiting you, then the mentality is like, oh well, sorry, like, it totally benefited me. And of course there are some good people who will care about you, but it again, it comes down to, who do they think you are? Do they think you are someone that makes them look good? Do they think you are someone that is good by their definition? Do they like your look? Do they like your swagger? Do they want to be around you? Do they want to be seen with you? Is a big part of it in the Hollywood scene, And so, Dochi had said that she found her set, and I think you could pretty much see what she's talking about in the Denial is a River video series. Like, she very clearly gathered a particular like type of a person. I mean, Zach Fox, who plays the boyfriend, is like one of the funniest rappers there is. Like, he's not per se like a comedy rapper, he's just the funniest rapper, and like, when you've got Zach Fox and Earl Sweatshirt, who basically grew up on a comedy show, like, he was part of Loiter Squad as like a teen, but is also this incredibly deep rapper, just those two guys alone, that already is like, okay, I'm seeing a trend here, and like, who, like, yeah, these are the kinds of people that you would hang out with if you were doing what Dochi does, like, it makes perfect sense. And it's also exciting because it's like, oh, this is connections I love to see. Like, this is a collaboration I never would have expected, because I don't know how those connections happen, but once they have happened, it like just makes sense, in your head looking at it, if you understand who all the people are. And even then, I only named, two people who I happen to have a better sense of than most of the others that are in the video. What do I need to put on this? Was there a way for me to put that pot down? How do I deposit pot? Is there a place button? Doesn't seem like it. Shit. Oh, maybe I can just push it. The floor definitely is like telling, yeah, okay. You can just push that fucker. Apologies to anybody who's just listening to this like a podcast that occasionally gets interrupted by me trying to figure out what the fuck is happening in the video game, but the video game is what is allowing me to process my thoughts well enough to speak, and frankly keep me motivated to keep going. Like, it can be really difficult to continue wanting to talk to yourself if you're not like doing anything. And so, again, as I said earlier, there's not like a video game that I've ever gotten so into that I've been like, I can play this endlessly, and just be so good at it that I can talk over it while I'm playing it, which is unfortunate because it would have been a great way to have a career doing what I do throughout the long period when Let's Plays were like super popular that I was doing YouTube. But I could never do it by myself. I always ended up doing a show with Vic, and the Digibros show was, in my opinion, pretty entertaining, but it was usually just me talking while Victor plays video games. It didn't end up being like as because he would struggle to be able to talk and play at the same time, and I would struggle to play a video game. So, between the two of us, we were both necessary to make it possible. But that's a good example of like the benefits of having somebody that you would consider crew, but my brother Victor does just much higher level work than I do, in terms of what is required from your skills, and also like what you're what you're working with, like he works with like nice equipment. He works with a lot of works with and makes a lot of money, on the productions he's doing. And I don't really have ambition towards being like that. Like, I always was interested in like being a part of independent productions. I never wanted to be a part of something that like is so massive that like my voice would be lost in it, because I have a really strong voice as a creator, and it's the strongest thing about me as a creator. It's just difficult to share, it's difficult for that voice to share space with somebody else, unless it's like I've had lots of interesting conversations. Again, though, rarely do those make me money. Like, rarely is that a type of content that... So it's like, a lot of the times, the stuff that is either the most personally fulfilling or literally just the best is not what's going to, be profitable. And that's I guess, not really news or too unusual to say, like, because we all know that the best art is not the most profitable art. That's obvious. The most marketable art is the most profitable art. So, if I even just as simply as had somebody who knew how to market my content for me, that's the kind of team that I need, And when I say for me, I do not mean tell me what to do and then I do it. I mean do it for me, because I don't necessarily not know what to do. I don't want to do it. I want to move on to the next creative project because I am constantly working through something. What is it? What am I working through? I don't know. If I did, I wouldn't have to spend so much time working through it. So, I've come to accept that I'm just trapped in creative mode. Like, I cannot by my own volition turn off the part of me that thinks I have to say a certain number of words every day. Like, even if I don't know how I'm going to say words that will make me money, I still have to say a certain number of words, like I have to perform. I have to do something. And if I can't figure out how to market that, like, within the time it takes before I need to do it again, I just simply won't, like it's just not going to happen. And that's not good, especially if you're trying to have a creative career. But I also don't know who to trust with, taking care of me in that way. Like, who would be able to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I answer in a way to whoever I feel like I'm trying to help, right? Like, I answer to Bird because I just respect him. I respect the way he lives his life. I respect the way he carries himself. I just like him in general. So, like, I will always try to do right by Bird first, but that's pretty easy to do, which is part of what I like about him, is that, he's not somebody who's... I shouldn't say he's not expecting much. I'd say he expects a lot from people, but, like, he also expects more from himself. So it's not like it's going to fall on you, He's a good person to be a team member with. And I just want to have a bigger team, and he does too. He likes... his job has a huge team, like his IRL job. So he likes working in a large group. I don't necessarily like a huge group, Even the PCP was like too big for me, Even after it narrowed out a little bit, it was too many people with too many competing voices, too hard to organize. Too many motives to try to keep track of, like, too different of expectations between everybody about what the thing was supposed to be, and that's what blew it up. It could not sustain, it could not hold the weight of all the different perspectives that were creating it, and, like, so... But it's not that I think that I couldn't work with a larger team, just not that many people who are all trying to be the creative voice of the project, which in the case of the PCP, like, all of us were the creative one. Nobody was the business person. Nobody, like, Nate would sigh and do it, like, do the business because he felt somebody had to. But that doesn't mean that he was coming into it as the business person. He was trying to be creative, It was supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be expressive. So, like, we never found that... Like, if you think about Odd Future, right, which is the closest thing in my generation to what I was... like, what I thought I was copying. Like, Tyler, the creator, is about my age. He found a group of creative people when he was in high school, and a guy named Clancy who figured out how those people were going to make money, And, like, Tyler himself is a genius and a visionary. So it's not like Clancy was giving him the ideas. He was figuring out how are those ideas going to happen, What is the logic behind how this is possible? What is possible? What are the limitations, And like keeping the overhead of the whole group, together. Eventually, that group drifted apart. Odd Future. I mean, they not everybody was capable of keeping up with the same level of, like, expectation creatively, and on top of that, like, they had different voices. Like, ultimately, Earl Sweatshirt's not that similar to Tyler. Like, they were friends in high school because they were two great rappers who happened to be nearby to one another. But, like, would they really be, in all contexts, like, friends? Or would they run in different zones? Because, like, I don't know, they're probably still friends. I'm just, using an example of people who, through the course of trying to realize what they are trying to realize, don't always end up working with the same people because, like, at some point they realize, oh, actually we're trying to do different things, and I feel like everybody that I have worked with throughout my career, at some point, we diverged in that way, where like, I realized, oh, we're not really chasing the same thing, and in my case, I'm not really totally sure what I'm chasing, again, other than expressive freedom, literally the ability to say the number of words that I feel like I have to say every single day, and like make a solid living off of that without having to constantly pause it to figure out the marketing strategy behind it, and I don't know even like how I would go about finding a person that could do that. But beyond that aspect of it, like I mentioned earlier that I come to the internet both for a career and for a social life. So like on top of this feeling of like an eternal search for crew, I'm also on an eternal search for family, and there's some people where the lines have been really blurry, with the PCP, I was more concerned about them as, in my mind, like a family than I was about them like a crew, but I was terrible at being like that for them, like ultimately I was so absorbed in my own shit that I didn't live up to like the way that I thought of them, like I thought they deserved a lot of like my attention and respect and working together, but ultimately I never really figured out how to make it happen all the time. Like RadCon was my best idea, and it was always a fucking nightmare. It was always a financial drain, it was always a personal drain. Like it was not fun any of the times that we did it, for me personally. Like I don't know if that's true for everybody. It was like it was, in some cases it felt like it was worth it for the content that we got out of it, but not even usually really that. Like I don't know, it never, I don't think any of them was like a net gain for me. All of them were a net loss for me, actually. So like both emotionally and in terms of what was like the product, financially and emotionally devastating. We'll put it that way. Was every RadCon. So at some point I asked myself, like, am I even like trying to do the same thing as everybody else in this like group? And particularly after transition, like, the person I sort of had the best relationship with for a while was Nate, but he really wasn't trying to like live any kind of similar lifestyle to me, like we're just very different people. We were not trying to live any of the same kind of things, and that was becoming more and more apparent, not just because of transition, but like the way that I carry myself on the internet, the way that I handle drama, the way that I talk about my life and myself is just like, that was not, he didn't want to be involved in my life, and that's totally understandable. But like I've been trying to mix like crew with fam, and I don't know if the two things are really compatible. Like I don't know if a good crew makes a good fam necessarily. I know it's been the case for some people. I know there's squads out there, but usually they know each, like it's not something they forced. It's not something they went looking for. It's something that happened, something that evolved naturally. And I think with the PCP it was something that all of us were trying to force, because we saw like Red Letter Media and we saw Game Grumps, and we went like, I want that, let me make a bunch of friends from the internet and we'll all get together and we'll do this thing. But when we actually got together and did the thing, it's like, well, I don't know, is this like really that good? Is this really interesting? Is this good for us, on like a personal level? Or, are we really just trying to be something that we aren't, And I think the answer was more the latter than the former. Not that I think the PCP was like I think it naturally just ended up being the way that we naturally are, and that had its own fan base. I don't think it was ineffective as a culture product in the sense that it had an effect on people. That effect was not to make us a tremendous amount of money. So, when I say ineffective, I mean I'm not reaping any long-term benefits financially from having done it. It was basically a sinkhole in that sense. Whereas, for instance, I have one fucking video that outperforms the entire rest of my channel every single day. My most popular video, the big anime face thumbnail, as I always call it, it's still making me money. It's a project that was just so, I couldn't have predicted this, but it was so viable, that it's still viable. Is that the case for this Zelda playthrough? I highly doubt it. I really doubt that I will make fucking $20 off of this video. I doubt it. But, to me, it is no less so, integral to my continuation than that other video. The popular one. That video was necessary for me to make at that time to express what I was stuck on mentally at that time. This video is the same thing for me now, but again, I don't know how to make this into as viable a product as that was. And again, I hate that that's even what my career is or what my art is driven by. I don't want to have to think of my art in terms of, well, what's going to make me enough money that I can do it, Just want to be able to do it. But I'm not I'm not a genius, I am talented in certain ways. I'm very good at doing what I do. It's just what I do is not considered totally valuable by a lot of people, and even the people who do find what I do valuable, navigating the value proposition with them is incredibly difficult. Where, like I was saying earlier, it's fine and fun to do some reaction videos sometimes, but I do not want that to be my career. My career is not that I react to other people's content. My career is that I make content, But if I can't get paid for my own content, I could only get paid for reacting to other people's content. Well, at some point it just stops being an artistic career for me. It's, well, okay, I'm here to I only want to see other people's content so I can learn how to do mine better, I don't want to be but again, what if I'm just not capable of making something commercially viable, or even broadly likable? Does that mean I don't deserve to live the lifestyle that I kind of considered necessary for myself? Again, I don't really know why I have to process all this, but I do, and when I don't, things get worse. It's I just get numb. If I wasn't speaking right now, I'd be doing nothing. I'd be maybe I'd be listening to some other YouTube video. Maybe I'd be paying attention to it. It's currently 6 a.m, so it's not I'd be out somewhere or talking to somebody. Nobody's awake. There's nothing in the world to be doing but this. Because I don't have another idea, and again, I don't think that it would be inherently, to me, more valuable. Let's say I was writing a novel right now, I don't think that that would be a better product for me than this. I understand why it would be for someone else. Like, if I wrote something that was like really gonna touch you in this deep way that you feel like, oh, nobody else could have made this, and this experience is super meaningful to me, like, this video could be that for you, but it probably won't, just because the format doesn't lend itself to that kind of emotion in an audience member. Like, even if, again, I was getting the exact same thing out of this that I would be getting out of writing a novel, and I probably would, because, again, for me, it's all just about processing something. There's a certain number of words I gotta get out every day. But, like, the audience, I don't expect to see this Let's Play and, like, feel like your life is changed by it in such a way that you're like, oh, I'm gonna tell all my friends that they need to watch this. I'm gonna talk about this to my family members. I'm gonna buy this on Blu-ray. Like, whatever. Like, I got 10 mysterious shells. Isn't that nice? I just don't see how this goes from being something that's great for me to being something that's great for you, on the same level as something else that I conceptually could be doing, but literally couldn't, because I don't have an idea. I don't have... And, like, people will always bring up, like, well, what about this book you started a year ago or whatever? And I'm like, I wrote what I had, like, again, there's just a certain number of words I have to write in a day, and it comes out however it comes out. And if I can't, if the next day the words come out different, then that's just the way it is, like, it's I'm not trying to say it's not my fault or that I couldn't sit down and decide, like, actually, I'm going to commit to just finishing this book and nothing else, But again, the question becomes, well, why though? Like, am I going to make a whole lot of money off of this book? Is this book going to, like, really inspire somebody tremendously? Is this going to be, like, differently helpful to me than whatever else I could be doing? And usually the main reason I don't want to, just finish the book is that, well, I'd rather do the other thing that I now want to do to process today, But again, like, switching gears all the time doesn't, it's just not a sexy way to have a career, like, people don't like to feel like they don't know what you're doing. As Death Grips put it, people like to tell your scent, like, they want to know what's going on. And, like, if the answer is, I don't know, then they're like, oh, well, then I don't know how to support that. And I'm like, neither do I. So here we are, unsupported. Not saying I have no support. Obviously, I have a pretty solid support network. But, like, that Punky Johnson interview, like, she says towards the end of it, again, like, this is a person divided from me in this way. She has money. Like, she worked on SNL. She put money away. And she was talking about how she feels oddly at peace right now because, like, any other time she would have been freaking out about, like, she's currently just not employed, but she's also not scrambling to be employed because she can afford to take her time and figure out what exactly is she trying to do. And that's something that I, like, should have had, but I took too long. Like, I spent so long trying to figure out who I am that I spent all my money. I spent all of that leeway time I had. And so now I feel like I'm scrambling to come up from behind myself, where it's like, oh fuck, I figured out enough of my identity to not have to be as worried about that, but now I don't, like, that identity doesn't square away easily with making money the way that, the way that I did when I didn't think when I thought, oh, I'll never figure out my identity, so I'll just focus on making money, Now I'm like, oh, well, I know my identity is not about making money, but I still need the money, so fuck. How do I make that at least a little bit of my identity again? It's sort of how do I have it so some of my identity involves making money, even if it's not like the main thing that I'm about, because having no money sucks. And it's not that I have no money, but I could easily have no money. I have debt. I have, I have a job that doesn't really exist. There's no guarantees about tomorrow, there's just I never know where the money's going to come from until it shows up. So it's I never know which video's going to make money. I never know which live stream's going to make money unless I know for a fact someone wants me to react to a specific video, and then it becomes, well, okay, there is money available to me circumstantial to I do this thing that I maybe kind of want to do sometimes, Alright, let's fight this fucking boss. Oh no, the pots do nothing. I guess I probably have to wait for him to do something that'll make him smackable. I'll probably end this as though it were a first episode of a Let's Play after beating this boss, because I think I've pretty much said the main points I've been trying to make. But where I'm at right now is trying to square away this whole, I'm simultaneously using the internet for my main social interaction and also for my job, because I think it's possible to have both, but I don't know if I can have both in the same context. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of finding out who in my audience I can be friends with by slowly, first of all, scaring away all the people I really didn't like, or thought are never going to adapt, or just never going to become the people I want to spend time around, scaring away a certain sect of the audience, and then out of whoever's left, figuring out, oh right, I have a fucking jar. Why did I forget I had a weapon that I picked up in this dungeon that obviously is what I need to use to beat the boss, because it's Zelda. I was so stuck thinking, I know I have to whack this guy with my sword at some point, and there's a bunch of pots in the room, not even considering the item I picked up inside the dungeon. This is the best part of the game, is when you get to just lay in on the boss with the sword. Oy. Yeah, the Discord has been really amazing for me on a social level. And I feel like I'm trying to make sure that the Discord has nothing to do with my job. Almost to a level. I mean, I like talking about my content that I am making because that's what I would want to do with my friends. I want my friends to be people who... It's something that's been missing from my life so far, is having friends who actually give a shit about the stuff I make. And, that really honestly kind of fucked up a lot of my, friendships, both from high school and with, the PCP members, because they just did not really care about my content, And, for a long time, I acted like that wasn't weird. Whatever. My content is so hard to like anyways, but type, or just not expecting people to like all of it, just the popular stuff. But I don't know, if you like can't, like you cannot listen to my music, like I don't really want to be friends with you, you know? Like I don't want to hang out with somebody that if I put on my music can't listen to it. Like that kind of sucks for me, you know? So like I've really been trying to rebuild like my expectations of what is somebody I want to spend time with or like consider a friend or do work with, you know? And you know, and whether or not someone I'm friends with and someone I want to do work with are like people I want to, you know, have in the same person. I'm sure I do want to work with people who I am also friends with. I just want to be very careful about how those kinds of relationships are established, because it's so easy for the work to fuck up the friendship, you know, or vice versa. Actually, both are equally difficult. Both are equally a problem. The work fucking up the friendship fucking up the work, you know? And I'm way more interested in friendship than work. Way more interested in friendship than work, you know? So that's a big part of the issue. Is not a lot of people want that to be the case. If you're trying to get work done, you're trying to get work done, you know? Like, but I'm always in this kind of gray area, and I do think America itself as a country, we love to operate in this gray area of work and play. We do not want them to be two separate things. We have a whole show, Severance, that's about like the grotesquerie of how hard we work to keep these things separate. And even then, like the undercurrent message of the show is like you shouldn't separate these things, but I don't know if that's like true. I just think it's like a very unhealthy manner that we think about it, you know, here. I'm not, this isn't me getting into like a thing about Severance. I haven't seen the fucking show, but I'm sure it has plenty of depth, and there's going to be like a whole analysis in the comments now just because I brought it up. You know, bring it up to Bird. He's actually seen the show. I don't care. But like, the point I'm trying to make is just simply that, in America, we really try to make our work feel fun and our fun feel work. And, like, I don't think it's all the way healthy, but I also don't think a total division of the two is healthy either. So that's why I'm still in the liminal space between like, I don't know. I just don't want to work. I don't want to feel like what I'm doing is work, you know? I want it to feel like what I'm doing because I'm passionate about it and I care about it, and it's good for humanity. And I don't think work is good for humanity. Maybe that's where the disconnect I have with everybody else is. I literally think like work is bad. Like it's not good for you, it's not good for us, it's just not good for anyone, you know? Like it's like a necessary evil. It's something you put yourself through because you feel like you have to, not because it's like actually a good thing to do. Like, and when I say work, I mean like in the generic sense that like work is just good in and of itself. Like doing work is a good thing. That is not something I believe, you know? There is such a thing as good work, but there is not constantly good work to be done, and especially not by every single person, you know? So like I think a lot of the time the best thing you can do is nothing, which is sort of how I came into this. Is like I hate that if I feel like instinctively right now I shouldn't be doing anything, that is an uncomfortable place for me because of this feeling that like, well, yeah, but nobody's gonna let me live doing nothing, you know, because nobody feels like they can live doing nothing, so they're certainly not gonna go do more, you know, to help you do less. Like that's just an unreasonable expectation of reality. But at the same time, like, I think it would be healthy, you know? Like, I do think people need to do less. And I like to think that my content kind of helps you do either, like, less in the sense that you're doing less, like, or redirecting your energy at the very least. Like, I like to think that my content is pretty good at giving people a sense of how they are going to direct their energy. You know, a lot of people draw while they watch my videos. A lot of people are inspired to draw by my videos. You know, like, they get the idea based on what I say in the video. You know, a lot of art has come about as a result of me. And I really hope that here's my dream, right? It's that somebody who consumes my content and views me as a major influence. This actually did happen recently, right? Well, I assume so, actually. A couple of bigger YouTubers, like bigger than me, but newer anime YouTubers, you know, made some pretty huge donations to my live stream recently. And I assume that I must have been an influence on it, because, like, I didn't really know these guys, but both of them were, like, fairly big and left so much money that there's no way they would have done it not knowing who I am. You know, like, to me it suggested, oh, these people respect me as somebody in this space. You know, like, they see me as somebody who is in deservement of you know, being protected as a member of the space. That's the way I would describe that feeling. Is like, oh, I'm being protected because I have earned some kind of respect from these people. And what it seems like is, well, they learned something about how to do their job from me, and now that's why they can make all this money. You know, they have all this money because, not just because of me, obviously. I'm just like one small piece of the puzzle. But if you view me as a piece of why you are capable to do what you do, that's what makes me feel the best about receiving from people. You know, is like, I'm not giving to you just because, like, you make a product I like. I'm giving to you because, like, I have this money because of you. You know, like, I have my happiness because of you, you know, on top of having this money. Like, if that's the kind of feeling that I inspire, then, you know, then I hope I can be allowed to live on that basis. Like, and when I say allowed to live, I do literally mean, like, again, it's not even that I think I don't need to, like, make more money to live, but I do need to make more money to do as much as I want to do with my life, and to expand my horizons on what I'm capable of. And, like, I won't really know what I'm capable of until I go out and do it. But right now, I can't really go out and do anything, you know? Like, I'm kind of stuck in figure out how I'm making money enough to go figure out what I'm doing mode. And how do I get that out of the way of doing things? You know, like, how do I get the need to make enough money to do something out of the way of doing the thing itself? You know, like, with Bird having with his North Star being to visit every national park, like, having a day job keeps him financially capable of doing it, but it also limits how often he can go do it. And, you know, it becomes this whole task of, well, how do I make time to be able to go visit these places and not lose the job that funds my expeditions in the first place? And I think we're all trying to square that circle in our lives, you know. I don't know why I like that phrase so much. I don't know what the fuck it means. But, like, it just makes me think of the band Circle Takes a Square, which I love. But, like, yeah, I think for me, it's like, I know that where I want to be is, like, always on the move. And in order to afford that, I would have to be able to like make enough money every time I touched down that, you know, that I wouldn't have to touch down all the time. And that's what I feel like right now. I literally, if I don't make content in a day, I might as well not eat that day, because there's no way I've made it. You know, and when I say eat, I mean both in the sense of like food, weed, beer, you know, anything I consume. I cannot afford to consume at the level I would just by nature. You know, like if I stop for a day, that's how it feels. And again, I feel like there should be something I can do that affords me more grace than that. You know, there should be something I could do that lifts me up from a you have to be on top of it every day, you know, like, because I'm just not on top of it every day. So you know, I spend a lot of time just like in guilt, just like kind of like, man, I feel like I'm not doing enough because I tread a lot of water. And you know, I feel like even when I'm doing my job, I can't tell if I'm really doing my job, because I can't tell if it's really gonna benefit me, you know, like, or if it's really gonna benefit you. I have a suspicion this video will hit really hard with like a few people, you know, and not at all with most people. I don't think most people will click on it because they'll just, I don't know how to market this in a way that makes sense. Again, I don't know how to communicate to you what about this makes it so you should watch it, you know, like why, who am I trying to reach, and what would I say to them to make them think this is for you, you know? All right. I feel like I'm going in circles now, both in the game and in what I'm saying, and I did say I was going to stop after I beat the first boss. So, that's it for the first episode. Oh, I've activated an event. What's going on here? See how many kinstone pieces you can collect. You never know what fusing kinstones will do, but it's sure to be good. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. I've finally unlocked the kinstone system, which is like the coolest thing about this game. So I'm sure we'll start exploring that in episode 2 if that's a thing. Again, I have no idea if it even makes sense to do more of this. It's possible that I will look back at this and think this was really not this was not an important thing for me to have released to the world, you know, like it's possible that this is something that was important to have done for the sake of my personal development, but that it will have no meaning after this moment, you know, to anybody else. Or it's possible that this will be looked back on as like a keystone moment, either by me or by you. I don't know. I really don't know. I cannot predict these things. Alright. Jesus Christ. Thanks for listening. I'm Trixie the Golden Witch. All of my links are below. See you next time. Zelda forever.